I'm animating this squid guy. Already got all the line work in the flat colors. So at the moment I'm going in with the cell shading and just filling in these cell shades to make it a little more 3D. The animation part took a lot more thinking and planning, whereas the cell shading part is more just following the lines that I've already put down. So it's a little easier, but it is still kind of tedious. But I like to do these shadow parts, sometimes have the shadow go just behind the highlight a little bit. It helps to make it pop. It's like this little highlight's going just over the shadow a little bit. And I feel like that gives it a nice kind of like a marble type look. And since this is a squid, it's okay that the cell shading is all glossy and slimy looking. I like that. And this is what it'll look like on the final frame once I have all these frames shaded in here. I'm going to go in with the darker red now. Continue this cell shade on the body and right behind the eye. And I just flip between the frames, flip ahead, back and forth, and that helps you judge what each frame will look like. So I'm like going back and forth to make sure it's gonna animate smoothly. It's kind of weird to think of animating the shadows and highlights, but these are also animated. You have to make sure that there's no weird jitters. And I'll go over it and just find some like more jagged lines, just kind of smooth them out. Just hand paint it in here. It's a pretty enjoyable process. And the glove I'm drawing with is brought to you by Fruit of the Loom. It's a special sock glove I invented by taking an old dirty sock and cutting holes. And it helps your skin not stick to the screen. I find that on drawing on paper you don't really have that problem of your hand sticking, but like on drawing on a tablet or anything with a screen, it's like the moisture just sucks to the screen. So having a drawing glove makes it much more enjoyable to draw. And right now I'm basically just drawing the outline of this shading, and then I'll go in later with a paint bucket and just fill it in. See, I can feel the shading is going up with the body. Let's get some of these guiding lines in. See how this looks. I love animating. I've been learning Blender, and it is very confusing. But yeah, I think some things are still, I'm always gonna do 2D, hand drawn. Like doing a character like this in Blender, I don't feel like it would have the same feeling. Even if you did all the kind of tricks to make it look more handmade, like adding toon shading and flat shading and all that. Something about actually physically drawing each individual frame that brings imperfections to the table that you can't really replicate with a 3D model. But there's certain things with 3D models that would be much easier, like animating vehicles, things like that, or more mechanical type structures. But you can animate 2D style in Blender as well with the grease pencil. So I'm just kind of enjoying learning different programs right now. And some of the skills there are transferable. So just learning how to animate in general, you're going to be able to apply that to any program. But each program has their own bells and whistles and unique things you can do. So I know this shadow here, I'm gonna need to start to dissipate it. I'm gonna start dissipating the shadow and then draw a new shadow coming in on the bottom. As it arcs down here, I'll have a new shadow that'll kind of come in right here. And yeah. What's up, Bim? I'm animating in TV Paint. Probably the most a more popular one would be Toon Boom, but TV Paint is kind of natural competitor, and I am wanting to get into Toon Boom soon, because the thing about TV Paint is it's all raster based, so you can't animate in vector, whereas Toon Boom you can do both raster and vector lines. But I just understand the TV Paint software more, so I just find it more natural to animate in. I really wish Procreate was available on desktop, because the brushes on Procreate are incredible. I know you can animate in like Photoshop and stuff, but it seems very not really designed for the workflow of animation. But and also like Clip Studio Paint, which I do Clip Studio Paint when I'm doing backgrounds or things like that I want texture in. And you can animate in Clip Studio Paint as well. But I don't know, I think the software honestly doesn't matter as much as a lot of people think it might. But the software can make certain things way easier. Like some softwares are much better for camera movements, and obviously like if you're wanting to do rigged characters, like rigged models, you need software that allows for that. TV Paint, just now, the newest version of TV Paint has some basic rigging model stuff, but it's not as in-depth as like Moho or Toon Boom. But they're catching up at least. And they've improved their keyframer on their camera now, so you have more, like you can real-time play around with the camera, whereas before, at least in the version I have, the multiplane camera, you basically have to apply the effect to the animation, and then you can't really edit it after the fact. So you're kind of just stuck with whatever you have programmed in. So it's nice they're increasing certain flexibility. But yeah, TV Paint is not free, but pretty much every program at least has a free trial version you can test out, make sure it works with your machine. And I would recommend that. And of course there's different pricing tiers for every program. But something I do like about TV Paint is it's a one-time purchase, so you don't have to deal with a subscription. Whereas like Adobe Animate's all subscription based, and then Toon Boom is, you know, mostly subscription based, but you can buy it a flat fixed rate, but it's pretty expensive. But if you know you're going to be using it, I always just recommend skipping the whole subscription type thing and just get something that you can own and perpetually. I'm messing up my talking, but yeah. This is a Squid. What's up, Sarah? I just had to end my Adobe Animate subscription, so I'm looking for alternatives. Yeah, I would pretty much recommend just getting off of Adobe altogether. They're kind of a sucky business, to be honest. And they've been doing a lot of stuff with AI and taking people's art who literally, without permission, people who use Adobe products, and farming their artwork and using it in advertisements and not crediting the artist, or taking people's artwork without their permission and crediting the artist that it was used with to make that it was that AI was used to make their art when it wasn't. So they're just like doing a lot of really shady, crummy things, and also they just suck. So like, yeah, just I would recommend getting off them. Yeah, my girlfriend had a student plan with them, and I can't remember the details, but basically they changed a bunch of stuff and the prices were increased and she didn't know, and it's just like, I don't know, they're just so greedy. It sucks because like they should be for the artists, but I don't know, they maybe just have bad management or something. But hopefully, as more artists at least are pushing against the AI stuff, hopefully more of these programs that are meant for artists will start listening. Cause like like the Annecy Film Festival this year, they had a bunch of AI submissions, and there was one music video that was entirely made in AI, and the audience was just totally quiet, and then there was some polite clapping, and then some people started booing, and then it was just a bunch of people booing the AI submissions, because it's like the wrong audience. Like the Annecy Festival is supposed to be a celebration of art and just like creativity. It's not supposed to be some tech bro fetishization of AI gimmicks. Like it's the wrong audience. You know, that AI music video might have done better at like a cryptocurrency cult type thing, but I don't know. I try not to think about it too much. I mean, everything's already been said about AI. I don't really have anything new to add to the conversation, other than I'm just gonna focus on making my own stuff and control what I can control, which is my own creative output, my own work ethic, and hopefully like there'll be a cultural shift enough to where, I don't know, like, and then like when I see the reception of it on social media, the only people who really I see posting like AI stuff is like just for fun. Like a lot of people on Facebook will post like AI portraits of themselves or little pet portraits that was made with AI. It's like this little gimmick, and a lot of like older people, boomers, who don't even know that it's made with AI, and that's where it gets kind of scary because there's a lot of disinformation online, and like even just silly stuff. Like I saw one image of a alligator that was trying to eat a baby elephant, and then the mama elephant was like lifting the alligator up with its trunk to save its baby. And I saw unironically people posting in the comments about how nature is amazing and how like I don't know, it's just like it was so obviously an AI generated image, but all these, again, like kind of older people, they don't realize. And I've seen like even like the AI images of ladies, of women, like who are obviously not real, and I'll see like 20 comments by 60-year-old guys who are wanting their phone number to message them. It's like, you realize this isn't a real person, right? It's like mosquitoes being attracted to a fake light. It's just, I don't know. Try not to get pessimistic here, but it's just like humans are amazingly smart, but also amazingly stupid. It's like we were smart enough to make all these tools, but it's like you can use a hammer to build a house, but you can also use it to, you know, bash someone's head in. And it seems like a lot of people are like lining themselves up to let their heads be bashed in by AI. Anyways, I'm sorry for ranting. Oh, this is like a dolphin thing. It's kind of random, but basically the squid, I'm making a pack of different kind of sea animal things. I hope they make restrictions for AI for that reason, for people who can't differentiate it. Yes, and actually I did see on YouTube something cool is like when you're uploading a video now, you have to disclose if you used AI to make it, or if any of the people in the video are AI voices or AI faces. And I feel like that's at least a step in the right direction to protect people's identities and everything like that. I'll just show some other animals on here. To this little whale guy. This little whale. I was gonna animate like some bubbles coming out of his eyes, but then I didn't. Yeah, I'm working on 2s at 30 frames a second. I normally work on 2s, but it just depends on the thing that's being animated. Like, yeah. But I find that 15 frames a second looks pretty nice, because 24 frames a second's a crap ton of work, but it can be really smooth. And then 12 frames a second is half the amount of work, but it can be a little bit too choppy for what I'm wanting to do with these sea creatures. But somehow 15 frames a second is only 3 frames more than 12, but it feels like a really happy middle spot between 12 and 24, where it's way less work than 24 frames a second, but it has more smoothness than 12. So, and also these loops I'm making are for live performance, like VJ loops, and they usually have video output of 30 or 60 frames a second, so 15 divides nicely into 30. So I can actually output these animations at 30 frames a second, even though it's animated technically at 15 frames a second. So it's all about context. No frame rate is superior. Everything is entirely about context and medium. Like sometimes 6 frames a second looks really cool on character stuff, or like, yeah, where you can feel the frames more, feel each individual pose more. I don't like frame interpolation stuff where you'll see it on YouTube where they'll take like Akira or some 1980s animation that was originally meant to be projected at 24 frames a second. They'll frame and interpolate it up to 60 frames a second, and then it loses all of its solidness and it becomes super floaty and gross looking. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of fetishization of technology where sometimes people obsess over the actual numbers more than the actual art and the context. It's like it's not a first-person shooter game, you know, where that matters more, that if it's 30 frames or 60 frames, because you need to be able to react to what's happening. It's like animators that animate frame by frame, they intentionally know how many frames an image should be on screen that you can read it comfortably, and it creates texture to have differences of frame rate. Well, I mean, like, okay, say the frame rate's always 24 frames a second, but I mean differences in 2s, 3s, 4s, 1s. So you'll have a part of the animation that's on 2s, and then he settles, and the character's like in a slow thinking pose where he's just moving around a little bit. Maybe he's animating on 3s now. Then something scares him and he runs away on 1s. That is all meticulously planned out, and it has a rhyme and reason. But if you interpolated that to all be 60 frames a second, you're losing all of the texture, all the dynamic differences. It's just becoming this auto-tuned mess. Kind of happens with music too, where if something is overly auto-tuned, you lose the entire vocal dynamic range, and you can actually look at the sound waves, and the sound waves are less varied now, and they're more flat-lined, and they're technically more perfect in terms of all the notes being correct. But is the performance more interesting? Is it more emotional? I would argue not always, and actually usually not. So it's just like everything's a tool. I'm not anti-tools at all. Like I'm using tools right now, you know, like there's a lot of automation I use in making animation, but I never want to get rid of the human element, never get rid of the hand that goes into the frames. Oh, cool, Mappa. I'm glad that you got into animation. It's always inspiring. I got into animation from seeing stuff on YouTube. Like, Anthony Shepard. Actually, I was animating before I watched this stuff. But, Chad Van Galen was a big one who does his own music videos. Which, when I was 19, I was making a lot of music. I was like, well, I can't really afford to hire anyone to make a music video. Then I saw, whoa, this dude is literally a one-man studio. He animates everything himself and he records his own music. So then I started making music videos for myself. And then from there, I did that for a couple years. I was like, well, this isn't really a economically viable situation here. Like, I'm not able to sustain myself doing this. So I was like, well, maybe I can find someone who has a budget that will pay me to make music videos for them. And I entered a contest for the Flaming Lips. The music video was Look, the Sun is Rising, and it actually won. And that was the first time I ever earned any kind of money off of animation, was this contest. And that taught me that, okay, there's actually a potential career here. And so I just entered a bunch of contests, and most of them I didn't win anything, and sometimes I did win a couple, but it was a very inconsistent way to function. So I basically was just learning how to animate by making animations for contests and trying out different styles and seeing what worked and what didn't work. And over time I built up a little show reel, and from there I started reaching out to labels and bands with my show reel and asking, hey, do you have anyone who would be interested in a music video? And here's a little look at my style, and maybe we can find someone that fits. And then just from there, like, I did a music video for this band Moon Duo called Cold Fear, and they had a connection with the producer on Adult Swim, and then the music video went on Adult Swim, and from there, the lighting designer of Red Hot Chili Peppers saw it, and he actually reached out to me. And he had a project going on with Incubus at the time, and he's like, we need some live tour visuals. Would you be interested in making animated loops? And I had never done loops before, so that's how I learned about the concept of animating loops and making visuals that are for concerts. And then from there, I just kept doing music videos and getting some more live concert stuff. And then I was like, well, I'm getting super burnt out working for people constantly. I need to figure out at least another kind of income stream, because I really want to move out of my parents' basement. I'm like kind of getting depressed here. So then I started my own shop, and I started a bunch of the loops I was making. I started just making packs, these digital packs that people could purchase and download to have all the loops on them. And so over time I was doing that, and Patreon, which I also post the loops on. So now I'm able to sustain myself through a mix of doing freelance work and royalties or sales from my loops and packs. And then the other thing I'm just kind of getting into now is making courses, which I've been doing animation tutorials on YouTube for a long time. But I'm also starting to make more full courses. So I made one so far a couple of years ago, and it's a course on how to animate 2D fire. And it's all about different ways to animate fire, frame by frame, like different styles you can animate fire in. So I want to explore that more, because there's so many different ways to animate things, and it's just like limitless ideas and things that you could animate. Like do a course on water, all water stuff, or just do a basic animation course that's just about getting into the basics of animation in general. And then I want to do a course that's all about making loops, that could be about how to animate loops from start to finish, generate ideas, and maybe even how to sell your own loops, or like set up loop commissions. So it could be an 80% of the course could just be about the actual mechanics of animating loops. The other 20% can be more pragmatic business side of animating loops and how to sell them, because I find that in the arts often the business side is neglected. Like if you go to art school, which I never went to art school, but I know people who did, there wasn't enough stuff about actual practical business stuff. So, and also, like, not to be a stereotypical, but often, not always, but often more creative, kind of artistic type people are not necessarily the most financially equipped, because it's just like a different interest, a different skill set. That's not a self-fulfilling prophecy though, because you can learn. It's just like any other skill, you can learn. And yeah, it's almost like a video game where you have these skill points and you just assign them to different areas, and over time you level up. And that's how I try to think about things, so I don't have an existential crisis. Now this shadow is going to start dissipating, and I'll start getting some more shadows underneath these highlights here. Oh yeah, and I should save so I'm not a sad boy when my program crashes. TV Paint is, so there's like different versions, and I think the student version's like 600 or so, and then if you want the full deal version, it's like 1500, I believe. Somewhere in that range. I think it's less than 2000. And then Toon Boom is also kind of similar. I think it's like 1500 for the standard, and maybe the full-on version's like 2000 or something, which I know is a lot of money, but like when you consider monthly payments, if you're going to be using it for more than 2 or 3 years, then you're definitely saving just to go ahead and bite the bullet and get the full thing. And also, like, kind of maybe plan to, if you're gonna buy a thing, just plan on maybe waiting, if you can, until like Black Friday or so. Research if these, whatever program you're wanting to get, research, maybe look at Reddit and see if they have sales every year, and just kind of hold out until then, and maybe you can get a little bit of a sale. And then, like, if someone's just learning animation, there are free programs like Flip a Clip, Krita, and as I mentioned before, Blender. So it's probably best to make sure you are learning animation, make sure it's something you actually want to invest your time and resources into, because it's not really a thing that, you know, it's not an easy hobby, so to speak. Although it can be, like if you do really simple story time animations like on YouTube. But even then, there's a lot of thinking and planning that goes into even simple animation. I don't want to downplay the more limited animation, because it is actually harder than a lot of people might think. It's like everything is usually harder than you might think at first. That's awesome. You're going into animation career. The industry is definitely struggling right now in terms of commercial studios, but it's always been an up and down cycle. So just do your best and build up a nice portfolio, and see if I would recommend trying to get even easy short projects. Like before doing studios, at least have some completed projects you can show, because honestly, studios care a lot more about your work output and your fossil record of projects more than what school you went to or degrees or anything like that. It's much more important to have visuals that you can point to and show, like, this is what I can do. I never went to school, which I have mixed feelings about, because like on one hand I feel like I missed out on some experiences. On the other hand, I also have zero debt, and I have a lot of friends who are struggling right now with the insane debt situation with student loans, so I'm thankful I dodged that bullet. But it's kind of predatory, like in high school, they make it seem like college is the only path and you have to get ready. But it's like when you're 15, your prefrontal, or 18, your prefrontal cortex is not developed, and it just seems like I'm not saying that college is a bad idea or anything, but I wish that it was made it more clear that there are multiple paths. Some people's paths include college, some people's paths don't, and no one should be shamed for not going to college, or vice versa. It's like everyone's situation is very personalized. That's just how I feel about it. Because when I was in high school, I was kind of felt like an idiot that I didn't know where I was going to go to college or anything, and I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life and felt kind of guilty. But like sometimes you just need some time to just take a breather from all that and live a little and figure it out. It's not a race, it's like life is a marathon, like a turtle. You just take things one step, one day at a time, and that's really the only way to live, is one day at a time, while also planning for your future. It's kind of like you have to think short term and long term at the same time. Same, that's what my parents told me to do. I'm glad I can do animation without college though. Yeah, there's so many more options now, especially with the internet. Like, there's so many tutorials on YouTube, and I just mostly learned like from the Animator Survival Kit, which is the book they teach in all the animation schools. It's like, well, I'll just kind of grab the same information they're all teaching and kind of learn at my own pace and take what's relevant to my situation and adapt it, and yeah, just kind of go from there. But I did get a scholarship for a community college, and I had like 10 years to use it. And on the final year, I was like, oh dang, maybe I should like do some community college classes, like learn stuff. So I was at my friend's house, and we were gonna sign up to community college together. And then when I got to enter in my information, it asked for my address, and I didn't know my address. So I was like, this is too much work, I'm not going to college, because I was living with my family, and I just kind of, I don't remember things like that very good. I live by myself now, and I still don't really know. I don't know my phone number, I don't know my address. I just have it all written down. I just can't remember stuff like that. I don't know why. I've tried, but like numbers and things, I just don't remember them. So I'm a little bit of a dum-dum. I've tried making my own projects, but doing it on my own has been hard motivation-wise. I get that. I would say, like, something about animation is sometimes, I don't know what specifically you are making, but like sometimes if we can bite off more than we chew. So I would recommend just doing something really small, like maybe a 15-second short. So figure out how can you tell a little gag or a little story in 15 seconds as a beginning, a setup, a middle, maybe some tiny little piece of conflict or something, and then a concise ending. And then you'll have something to show for it, and that inspiration and motivation will build up over time. Because it's like a snowball effect, where if we keep starting projects and then abandoning them and starting more projects, we start to feel guilty that, oh man, I didn't make anything. I thought I was going to, but then I didn't. And that guilt actually builds up over time. But you can break that cycle if you can actually finish a project, because then it tells yourself subconsciously you start to associate work with finishing things rather than associating work with not finishing things. So yeah, that's what I would recommend. It's just like a video game, like Pokemon. You know, like if you're starting out a Pokemon game, you wouldn't battle your level 3 Pikachu against a level 50 Charizard, right? You'd look for a level 2 Pidgey and beat up some little Pokemon, and over time you gain those experience points. That's just how I think about it. Everything in life comes back to Pokemon. This squid is almost like a little Pokemon. Let me save. I'll check how this is looking in motion with the shading. What's up, Ian? How much for an animation? It just depends. Yeah, I mean, it's like how much for a car, you know? It's like, it totally depends. But basically if we're talking like music video or a custom loop or how long the loop is, usually I do about 500 for a custom loop, or 250 if it's more simple, and if I have the ability to repurpose the loop for projects. If it's exclusive use to where I couldn't repurpose the loop or resell it in my own pack, then I'd do an exclusive loop for 1,000. Or if the loop is super duper duper simple, like a star pulsing in the sky, something super simple, I could do that for $50. Because even simple stuff surprisingly takes a little longer than one might think. This is a squid? What are you talking about? Look. It's a squid. See? Bro. Gotta save my April foolishness. I think I just saved. I should probably set up automatic saving or something. I'm too stupid. What's up, Max Stravaganza? Holy, it's so smooth. Thank you. I was showing some other ones earlier. I think I forgot to show the other ones. This one's actually on 3s, so that's 10 frames a second. Then I have a couple other, this little, whatchamacallit, seahorse or whatever. The light is kind of glaring on my thing. It's too light. Well, it's like a seahorse with a goopy tail, and then its chest is pulsating. It's like this. I'm animating in TV Paint for anyone wondering about that. And then, let's see here. Oh, I have a turtle. So something about this turtle, I actually, surprisingly, when I first animated it, I forgot to give it a shell. So it was literally just this goopy turtle with this little rim part of the carapace. But then I forgot to add the the shell part. So someone pointed that out to me. He's like, that's a turtle, it has no shell. But I guess it could kind of be like a soft-shelled turtle without this bulging back part. But he's kind of putting his head in his shell. And then I did this little kind of dolphin, and I was looking at videos of dolphins playing with bubbles. So I kind of thought about animating some bubbles that are attached to its body. Hey, thanks for the kind words, Sierra. I aspire to animate like you one day. You're inspiring ASF. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. You know, it's interesting. Animation can be a very isolating thing. And so it's nice to hear encouraging words sometimes. Because I guess a lot of people struggle with this. But like, normally if you're just by yourself a ton making stuff, you kind of just think you suck at stuff. Because you notice your flaws more. Right? But like other people notice the things that you don't notice as well. So it's just kind of interesting. It's like the longer I've been animating, the more I notice what's wrong with my own stuff. But that comes with your skill level increasing, because you become more tuned to your tastes and what's working and what's not. A lot of drawing or making anything, it's not even so much the physical motion of drawing, but the mental aspect of calculating what to do, and sometimes more importantly, what not to do. But you also want to be able to turn that editor off and just be in a free-flowing state. And then you can go over your work later, the more critical eye. Because if you're too critical during the entire process, that can be very stifling, where you might be paralyzed by indecision. So there's definitely a time and place for having the critical eye on and turning the critic off and just going with the flow, being in the flow state. Don't overanalyze, don't think with words. Just let your eyes and your subconscious fill in the blanks. And then you can later on kind of tweak things. Oh, thanks for saying that. That this is encouraging or positive. I feel like I was a little bit more negative right now because I was talking about stuff I don't like. Because I'm normally just try to be more positive, but yeah, like, I don't know, I just try to keep a more positive vibe. Because I noticed that when I'm negative, I just don't feel good, which I guess isn't really groundbreaking. But like, yeah, it's like sometimes can be addicting to be in a bad mood or be angry at stuff. It's a really weird thing because I know it doesn't make me feel good, but sometimes you get in a thought loop of just being hypercritical or sour, and it's like becomes mentally easy, like a default mode. But it's like, wow, this isn't helpful of me at all. Like, I'm not helping myself with this or helping anyone else. So yeah, I just if I find myself getting in a thought loop, I'll try to go on a walk and put on some music, just step away. Sometimes you just gotta get away from whatever's causing you anxiety and just not engage with it, because it's like putting fuel on a fire. If there's something that's really bothering you and you have the power to disengage with it, then stepping away, it's like just saying no. You know, those like just say no to drugs type thing. It's like super corny, but it's like just say no to bad vibes. That's how I try to approach things. But I have my off days as well, where it's sometimes harder. And I find the biggest thing by far is getting good enough sleep. When I don't get enough sleep, I'm so much more reactive to things. And it's like not just my attention span is worse, my emotional capacity to notice that I'm in a bad mood or how to change it is worse. It's like, yeah, just like getting enough sleep, it keeps your brain healthy. Because when you're sleeping, you basically, the way I think of it is like recharging a battery. So you have to recharge your brain. But I've read a bit about the science of sleeping, and I read a few books on like dreams and things like that, and we still don't really know why people dream, but it happens in the REM stage, rapid eye movement. And at least in this particular stage of sleep, you consolidate memories, and it improves your ability to learn things. It helps, like anything you were learning during the day, it basically is like getting printed in your brain. Because like if you skip sleep for several days, your ability to learn is completely diminished because you're not getting that REM stage. And if you're sleep deprived, you'll cycle through the early stages of sleep super fast just to get to the REM stage. So like if you didn't sleep for a really long time, you're gonna pretty much, when you fall asleep, go right into dreaming mode. But yeah, like sleep is so necessary. It's just as important as food or water. You won't be able to live without sleep. And so like, I don't get why some people kind of brag about not sleeping, or yeah, it's like, that's just saying that you didn't. It's like bragging about not drinking water. It's like, yeah, cool, that's hard to do, but like, it's not smart to do. Just drink water, get enough sleep. I normally don't talk this. It's really weird. Like, I'm a very, very introverted person, and I sometimes find it extremely hard to talk. But like, sometimes I'll just start talking and I won't realize that I'm just talking for a long time. And yeah, I don't know. It's a weird phenomenon. But I guess it's good this is happening right now in the middle of a stream. Otherwise, I would just be doing a silent stream, which I've done a lot, where I don't talk at all. Then I forget that I'm streaming, and then I'll start talking about how weird it is to talk. Which I guess I'm kind of talking about how weird it is to talk right now, because it is weird. I'm just making noises, and it communicates information that people are hearing, and then it's going inside someone else's brain, and they're interpreting it, and possibly misinterpreting it. Which is one of the tragic things about communication, is that miscommunication is an inherent part of it, because it's not just dependent on being able to say words. You're also transferring those words and mental images and mental projections into another person, and then they're reinterpreting it through their own experiences and everything they associate with whatever word you said, and they're creating an approximation of what you said. No one can fully understand you. No one can fully understand anything other than what they're thinking. It's all just an approximation of what someone else is thinking, a mental projection, a little 3D image that we build in our heads. And yet social life goes on. We're still able to understand each other enough for social life to go on, but it's like we'll never truly understand what it's like to be anyone else other than ourselves. And there's something scary about that, but also still beautiful that we're able to reach out and make connections with people despite the clunkiness of language. We're able to bridge some of those gaps. What's up, Katzu? It's okay to be negative sometimes. I'm angry at something right now, but this is calming me down. Awesome, I'm so glad to hear that. And yeah, I'll show you what it looks like right now. That's why communication is the key to all functional relationships. Definitely. Heck yes. These are amazing. Is this Clip Studio Paint? This is in TV Paint. Yep, I should probably put TV Paint at the top of this so people know. But I don't know how long I've been streaming. I'm definitely not gonna finish the cell shading right now. But yeah, I appreciate everyone watching, and I have more stuff on YouTube. It's just my name, Mikey Buzan Animation. So just type in Mikey Buzan on YouTube and you'll find full animations and things like that. So I'm gonna peace out, and I really appreciate everyone just hanging out with me for a second, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.